Hi everyone, I am Alex B. Shalongo.
And I am Amelita Kayakay.
Now, we are talking about figures of speech. Figures of speech. A figure of speech is a word or phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. We know that there are a lot of figures of speech, but in this video, we only discuss the 5 figures of speech: the simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, and the irony. Let's have simile first. Simile. Compare two unlike things using like or as. For example, Mary's smile is as bright as the sunshine. Why is this an example of simile? Because it compares two different things, Mary's smile and sunshine, and it uses as. As you can see, instead of just saying Mary's smile is bright, it's make it more appealing by comparing it to another thing or object. Another example, my grandmother's dresser smells like a rose garden. This also an example of simile because again it compares two different things, grandmother's dresser and a rose garden. Using the word like, it makes it more interesting than just saying my grandmother's dresser smells good. Okay, now let's move on to metaphor. It's a direct comparison of two unlike objects without using like or as. Let's have this example. The snow is a white blanket. In this statement, the snow is compared to white blanket without using as or like, since snow is also white and it also covers things. Another example, the stars are sparkling diamonds. In this example, stars are compared to sparkling diamonds without the use of like or as, since stars also sparkle or shine. Now, let's have personification. Personification is a figure of speech that gives human qualities to places, objects, animals, or ideas. For example, my alarm clock yells at me to get out of bed every morning. Why is this an example of personification? Because the alarm clock is treated as if it has a mouth that can yell like a person, and of course this sentence has more effect than simply saying I get out of bed every morning when my alarm clock rings.
Now, let's move on to hyperbole. It exaggerates a particular situation or condition. It's like describing someone or something in an extra way. Sentences that use hyperboles are called hyperbolic statements. For example, this bag weighs a ton. Why is this a hyperbole? Because it exaggerates. Instead of simply saying, this bag is very heavy. Do you think a bag can really weigh a ton? No. Another example. She was so happy, her smile was a mile wide. Why is this also an example of hyperbole? Because it describes a wide smile in an exaggerated way. So, let's move on to irony. Irony occurs when there is a marked contrast between what is said and what is meant, or between appearance and reality. Sentences that use irony are also called ironic statements. There are 3 types of irony: verbal irony, situational irony, and dramatic irony. Verbal irony: the use of words to mean something different than what they appear to mean, or saying the opposite of what you mean. For example, you tell your friend that you are fine, but actually you're not. Next is situational irony: the difference between expectation and reality. For example, a prankster places a bucket of paint or water on the edge of a door. Instead of falling on the person coming through the door, the bucket falls on the prankster. That's the example of situational irony. Now, let's move on to dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when the audience is more aware of what is happening than a character. For example, are you familiar in the story entitled Romeo and Juliet? In Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is forced to take a sleeping potion to escape marrying Paris. She must do this because she is already married to the banished Romeo. When Romeo hears she is dead, the audience knows she is alive. Then he kills himself, and as Juliet wakes, she sees him dead and takes her life as well. The audience knows it all could have been prevented if the friar's letter had gotten to Romeo, making the tale all the more tragic. So that's all for today's video.
We hope that you learn a lot.
Thank you and
God bless.